And just like that, Trump's cases are all gone.
Tell me about. Well, so let's explain. We're days out from one of the most historic landslide victories in American history. In our lifetime, we haven't seen a victory this big as President Trump had over Kamala Harris a few days ago.
Grover Cleveland. Grover Cleveland was the only president that did that. That skipped a term and then came back, did a comeback.
Right. But also just the overwhelming referendum that I think the American people have delivered to this president, number 47, Donald J. Trump, for many reasons. I mean, I think some of it is a vote against the other side, the message of the other side. Some of it is a vote endorsing him, all of that. But now that the country as a whole has spoken so overwhelmingly in support of him, reelecting him, what does that mean for these 4 criminal cases that were going on?
Well, they go away for the most part. He's got 2 federal cases. He's got 2 state cases. So let's break them down.
Yeah.
All right. The first case, he's got 1 New York case. He's got a Georgia case.
Yep.
He's got a D.C. case.
Yep.
And
a federal case.
And he's got a hush money case.
Florida.
The Florida, yeah. So just to go over everything, so the Stormy Daniels was the hush money payment case.
Yeah.
That's the one he was convicted on.
That was New York, right?
New York, right.
Yeah, so that's dozens of felonies of falsifying business records.
34 counts of misdemeanor. Basically, let's call it I messed up my ledger case. I didn't properly note my ledger case. Which I told you, by the way, in our last podcast, if it wasn't for Donald Trump, I don't think they would have ever prosecuted this person.
Yeah, and that I always wonder about that. So there's technically breaking the letter of the law, which the prosecutor worked really hard to prove to a jury on paper this was done exactly. But then there's a question of like, do you really prosecute every one of these? How do you choose who to prosecute? Do business records get falsified across all companies across this country? Maybe inadvertently, especially when they're internal records, right? These were internally kept records. These were not for publication, from what I understand. These were internal records at the Trump organization. Multiple lines marked legal expenses because money was paid to his lawyer, Michael Cohen.
Yeah, there's the spirit of the law.
Yeah.
And then there's a letter of the law. Just because you could prosecute doesn't mean you should prosecute.
Mm-hmm.
So, in fact, as we're doing this podcast right now, Judge Merchant, who was the judge in New York, is actually deciding whether or not to drop President Trump's case, completely drop it.
Because this case we're talking about, which is
the 34 counts of misdemeanor, because number one, let's just assume that it gets postponed 4 years, which is going to happen. They can't prosecute a sitting president. There's a law on that. They're not going to prosecute him. The Department of Justice will not prosecute him.
Is that a constitutional thing?
There's under the Supremacy Clause, under Article 2, the federal government employee supersedes anything that a state government would do. Right. So the national interest of the leader will usurp the criminal case because it's, in essence, the American people, have voted and said, we know that he's a convicted felon and we don't care.
We don't care.
So is it in the interest of justice to sentence a person where 5 million people above Kamala Harris voted to put this person in power? Is it in the interest of justice? And is it practical to do it? And additionally, let's just say he sentences him. Do you think he's really going to go to jail? I don't think so. He's 75 years old plus, never committed a crime in his life. This is not a violent case.
That was a bold statement.
It's not a gun case. It's not a drug case. He's never committed a crime before. If this was my client, I'm telling you, he would not do jail. Yeah. So why would President Trump go to jail? It makes no sense. So based on that, I think Judge Merchan, I'm predicting is going to drop the case. So New York is gone.
So sort of, and this is the judge that's been quite aggressive towards President Trump leading up to this, right?
Not only aggressive, I think he shouldn't have been the judge. He was conflicted. His daughter,
almost activist.
His daughter is an activist against Trump. Whenever you have the appearance of impropriety, even you should recuse yourself.
Right. That's what we're taught in law school.
So
just the appearance is enough.
The appearance is bad. So Merchan shouldn't have been on the case. I agree with Trump, and to that extent. And for those people that are watching this podcast right now, just so you know, we are not a political podcast. We don't take sides. We're just a neutral arbiter of facts. We're just judging this from the spectator seats, right?
Yeah, I was surprised to see the results. I mean, I sat back. I had like a watch party, just me and a couple buddies, some whiskey, watching the results come in. I've been politically homeless for some time. I think you've been politically homeless in terms of like some of the issues on this side make sense, some on this side make sense. However, that being said, some people felt, half the country probably felt that these cases against Trump were lawfare. They were politically motivated lawfare,
and that's why I think they voted for him. I think it backfired on them.
Might have backfired. So when you see that sea of red across the country at night, watching the election results roll in, and you go, okay, so people are pretty much, one of the strands of thinking here is people are putting up the middle finger to this overly militant lawfare approach, to this approach of like, we want to bring this person down, we're politically motivated, and we're going to use every potential legal code and mix it and bootstrap it here to take a misdemeanor and elevate it to a felony, and then multiply that 33 times because there was a check that was written and then an envelope that was licked and then something was dropped in the mail, none of which he did himself personally anyway. And people are kind of calling bullshit on it, right?
Well, it looks like political prosecution, lawfare, as you called it, right? Another word for it. So political prosecution has never happened in this country before. And then if you just look at it from a coincidental point of view, is it coincidence that there's 4 cases that were slammed against President Trump after he left office? Some of them might be warranted. I mean, the January 6th case, maybe you could make an argument that he incited the riot. I still have arguments against that, by the way.
That's Georgia state level, or is that federal level? So both of them have to do with election interference.
But he did that under presidential, when he was a president, and he didn't really say go inside and break the doors down.
He certainly wasn't caught with the smoking gun in that case because he kind of said all the right things you need. Maybe not all the right things. I personally kind of wouldn't have minded if he stepped in a little earlier, just showing my cards here, but he did say the right things to sort of avoid any kind of, I think, appearance of impropriety or legal problems. Like, do it peacefully. Make sure you protest peacefully. Make your voices heard peacefully. Fight, but political speech always involves the word fight. Kamala Harris in her concession speech used the word fight.
Right.
So how literal do we take it? Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah, and we have to decide now. So what happens to these cases? That against Trump?
So New York first. New
York is going to get dismissed.
So that same judge that you feel and I feel has been a little bit of an activist, you now think he's going to just turn around and go, look, there's no point. I'm dropping this. What am I going to do this for?
What is he going to do? Wait 4 years to put him in jail? Does that make any sense? And even if Trump does get sentenced in 4 years, the American public is going to want us to pay taxpayer dollars and waste time and have the Secret Service follow him to jail.
Doesn't that even lead to a dead end? Let's just walk down that breadcrumb trail for a sec. He waits 4 years. Trump finishes his term. This judge comes out victorious and says, now it's time to sentence you. Can't Trump just pardon himself, or the next president maybe pardon?
No, because it's a state case. You can't pardon for state, only for federal. The executive pardon only. The force field of the White House Oval Office is only for federal cases. So
see that, everybody? There's limitations to presidential power. There's limitations.
But in 4 years, a lot could happen in politics. These prosecutors, like Fani Willis, who's in Georgia prosecuting him for the election interference case. Remember when he called Brad Raffensperger
and asked for more votes
to find 11,028 votes. So he's being prosecuted for that. So
for that exact phone call.
And that case has been on ice for like a while now. And that same prosecutor has been prosecuting Young Thug for like a year, and she didn't go anywhere with that. I mean, to me, it's completely political. She said when she was running for office, she was going to go after Trump. Letitia James, if you Google it, please, whoever's listening to this podcast, Google Letitia James. You will see her losing it at every rally when she's running to be the next prosecutor in New York. She's saying, I will prosecute Trump. I will do this. I will put him in jail. I got some news for you, Letitia James. You might do that while you're running for office. But once you get in office, you're supposed to be an impartial arbiter of the facts. You're not supposed to be political. Mm-hmm. So you could say all those things to get elected, but then you shouldn't be pulling the trigger because you become biased. Does that make sense? And it looks
you seem like you're overly trigger happy for some reason, or you seem like you're selectively going out of after certain high profile people to raise your own stature.
Yeah, we don't do selective prosecutions in this country until Trump. That was
now,
the first time.
Is there a way we can codify that in a law or something and really prevent selective prosecutions moving forward? I mean, can somebody sit there and assess it and go, that's like what's it called when you sue someone wrongfully and they flip it on you? They call it like
Countersuit.
Malicious prosecution.
Well, so you're talking about what he wants to do with Letitia James. He said that he wants to basically prosecute her, but in reality, it's just a lot of barking from Trump.
No,
You can't throw somebody in jail for prosecuting it. What he could do is sue her for malicious prosecution. That he could do. He could actually sue the prosecution, just the way, like, let's just say if you're the government official and you come after me and I beat your case, and I've done this. I'm a civil rights attorney also, so I've beaten the government cases, and I've turned around and said, you know what? Now that you charged my client and we won, you're going to pay. So Trump's lawyers could say the same thing.
What do you bring against
malicious prosecution?
So you're saying you knew this was not a winning case and you brought it anyway.
That's right.
Just to bother us.
Right. You brought it against me and you overstepped your power and authority. That's for the Georgia case. So, but the thing is, now the U.S. Supreme Court has given Trump immunity on the last case for the case with the documents. Remember the document case in Florida? He kept the documents because he thought it was his.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that.
Yes.
So we're
jumping from case to case.
That's okay. We were kind of on New York, touching on Georgia, going to Florida. Florida is the documents case where they were left unattended.
He was like, "That's my document."
But
you know.
And a lot of people ask me and come up to me and go like, this is really unfair. And they have grievances over the fact that they believe the Supreme Court has now given complete immunity to presidents to do anything they want. Is that really true?
They didn't give complete immunity. They gave him immunity. And now Jack Smith, who's in charge of that, the Attorney General, is taking it up and asking him, well, what do you mean? How much immunity does he get?
Do we know how narrow was that ruling recently by the Supreme Court about presidential immunity? What exactly is it saying? Do we know?
Well, we don't know. And that's why Jack Smith is asking for the Supreme Court to curtail exactly what is immune and not immune, but we're not going to go there.
So what do they say?
We're not there yet, and we're not going to go there.
Okay, but what did they issue so far?
So the issue was whether or not Donald Trump had presidential immunity when he said, "I'll meet you in front of the White House. I'll see you guys there." And they're saying that it was a dog whistle. He was basically whistling his dog, saying that go and fight, go break in.
Oh, so now, okay, so we're not talking Georgia we're not talking about documents in Florida. We're talking about inciting a riot.
Or even the Georgia case.
Georgia case.
Even the Georgia case. Even in that case, his lawyers are raising the same issues as they are raising in a documents case, saying anything that President Trump did while he was president, he's immune.
Sort of in the context of being president,
yes,
or just while being president?
Well, that's for the U.S. Supreme Court.
Right,
that's what they're saying. They're saying, what context did he do this in? The context is important. So once I identify the context, then they'll know whether there's protection. So in other words, if he did it in the context of a private citizen, it's not protected, which is what Jack Smith is saying. He filed a superseding indictment, meaning another indictment after the January 6th riots, after he got kicked out. Remember, Judge Cannon threw it out because of the presidential immunity, because he said, well, if you did it while you were president, then you have immunity. But now Jack Smith is saying, I'm going to file it again, saying it's going to go under a private person, not just president.
He's going to argue that these actions by President Trump were done not in the context of being president.
Right.
That sounds kind of ridiculous, right?
Well, he's trying to loophole it and backdoor it in. But either way, I don't know if you heard, Jack Smith is not going to be dropped. He's winding down the case. He's going to be dropping the charges because Trump said it. As soon as I get in office, I'm going to fire him.
So similar. Oh, okay. So it's a meaningless thing to go down. Just like the judge in New York, he's kind of throwing his hands up going, what's the point?
Yeah. You know what's interesting? Trump dodged all these bullets by becoming the president of the United States.
Yeah.
If he lost, the newspapers would have been saying the opposite. He's looking at sentencing, possible jail time.
Let's look at that.
Life flipped.
Let's imagine it was a sea of blue instead of a sea of red 2 nights ago as we were sitting there sipping whiskey, looking at the screen. Kamala sweeps the U.S. Yeah. Just imagine. And she takes the House and the Senate.
They would have gone after Trump. He would have been toast. He knows it.
What do they know it? What do they do? There's just charges are filed, more charges.
They not only more
arrests are made.
They would have went further because they would have said this is an indictment of the American public. They rejected Donald Trump, and therefore what we're doing is right. So they want us to do. They gave us the American public gave us a mandate to go after President Trump.
That's interesting.
That's what they would have said.
That's interesting. That almost like the justice system almost looks to the voices of the masses of like, hey, should we do this or should we? Do you want us to avoid this or should we?
We do that now with 12 people.
Like gladiator fights, it's like a thumbs up or a thumbs down from the crowd. Almost.
It's called the jury voting. We do that now. We have 12 people to decide.
Yeah.
Except we did it on the bigger level. We did it on January 6th as as the American people. By the way, when Trump lost the 34 counts in misdemeanor, he said that doesn't matter. What matters is how the people will vote on November 6th. They'll decide whether I'm guilty.
Interesting.
And in a sense,
and so true.
It was true because the people decided, you know what, we don't care.
He's got good instincts for big level thinking
Excellent.
like this. Amazing.
Again,
instincts.
I'm not a Trump supporter. I'm not pro-Trump. I'm not against Trump. But the guy's got
Well, we're all pro-Trump in a sense now. Just because he's our president.
Absolutely.
Just because he's our president, it's like, let's move this country.
Yeah.
Like, let's go. It's time to go right now.
I would have done it I did it for Biden. I would have done it for Kamala Harris. I did it for Obama. You know, whoever's the chosen one, whether we like it or not, there are bearer. They're a bearer for justice. They're a bearer for liberty. They're a bearer for the truth. So we have no choice. Whether you like it or not, you got to give Trump a chance.
Everybody out there. And whoever feels grievance with this election and feels like the country voted against you, or maybe because of the color of your skin or your gender or your ideology, that's probably not the case. I would say it's absolutely not the case. So take my word for it as one little guy talking into a mic. If you feel like the whole country voted against you, take a look at yourself. Take a look at yourself and ask, is it really, like, is everybody wrong? Or have I been fed a certain ideology of division, of identity that maybe doesn't serve me well and doesn't serve the country well? Because the country has basically said, we don't want that. We want to move forward fairly. We don't want any of that identity politics.
This may be off out of my expertise, but it just seems to me, and I'm not a politician, it just seems to me if you're in an echo chamber and you're hearing the same things over and over again, you're going to start believing it.
Yeah. And we live in LA. We know this.
So yeah, we live in LA. So if you believe in all the things that you hear just watching one television program over and over again, so of course you're going to get indoctrinated.
Yeah. I have good friends that are freaking out right now.
Right.
And I kind of feel bad for them. I feel sad for them because they don't really see what's out there.
The thing, and I'm not trying to be arrogant, but there needs to be a level of critical thinking.
Yes.
You need to not be emotional.
100%.
When you decide things in life, even though we're emotional and we get excited about things, you can't run with your emotions. You have to critically think. And unfortunately, I think that most Americans don't critically think. They just go with their emotions and start crying and they say, I don't understand.
See, I did think that, but this election kind of gave me a lot of hope. It made me think, wow, I feel like, listen, there was a lot of bullshit coming from the right about election denial, about all that. There was a lot of bullshit coming from the left, okay, about identity politics, about divisive ideology, about gender confusion, a lot. I was sitting there going, what bullshit are people going to be able to cut through or not cut through? Are they going to be able to critically think and go more for the issues, more for the economy, foreign policy, safety and security?
Just not about the economy.
Safety and security.
It was just economy.
It was safety and it was security too, man. Listen, blue states across the country took 5 to 10 to 20 point swings towards red.
Yeah.
California swung more. It's still blue, but it swung 10 to 15 points towards red.
Same with New York.
New Jersey's almost 50-50.
Yeah.
Rhode Island, Pennsylvania.
Do you know why? It has something to do with our
Massachusetts.
It has something to do with our show Crime. He picked up a massive amount of Latino and African American males because they felt that they could identify with the persecution and the prosecution of the president.
Agreed.
And that increased his chance. They felt like, oh, he knows what we're going through now. We went through this. And on top of
a little bit of relatability.
On top of it, they admired the fact that he could handle running for president and fighting the government at the same time.
Yes, he just did it so smoothly. The people voted for him so overwhelmingly. And it's like all of these things are on people's minds, and to me, I was impressed, and I felt emotional, and I was blown away by the ability of such a large group of people across race, across gender, across age, all of the different categories across this country, seemingly to cut through the BS being fed to them about all of these hot button surface level issues that aren't the real issues, like racism, Nazism, fascism, the end of democracy, these kind of movie poster headlines that they were being fed. But the fine print was real wars around the world, foreign policy, actual economic indicators, all of the real things, safety and security, the rights of police versus criminals. And people were able to cut through and see to that, I think, and just issue a referendum to this 47th president. And they rejected the ideology on the other side. That's what I see.
Well, I was surprised they voted for a felon. That's never happened in the history of the United States. He is a convicted felon.
He is.
And
is he, though? And he is.
Well,
but
that's a great question.
But is he, though?
So if this happened, if this trial was conducted in Georgia, do you think he would get convicted? If it was conducted in Texas, do you think he'd be convicted?
Good question, right? Of course not.
It's all about
it was in a blue section of Manhattan.
So I do this for a living. I've been doing this for 25 years. I got 76 jury trials underneath my belt. I have 10,000 cases of experience. The most important thing for me when I'm doing a trial is the location,
right,
of where the war is going to be. I want to pick the territory of the war. What do I mean by that? I'll give you an example.
Who's the jury?
The best courthouse, for example. Who the jury is and all that stuff, right?
So how did he get stuck in that district?
Because that's where it happened. The checks that were written to Stormy Daniels was in New York. So that's wherever the crime happens. That's where the jurisdiction. Unfortunately for Trump, that's where it happened.
But then you see people moving venue all the time.
He should have had his venue moved. But the thing is, everybody knows who Trump is. So where's he going to go where they don't know him, right? You can't forum shop.
Dallas, bro. Dallas, Texas.
Yeah, you know what you're doing?
You can't.
In law school. You went to law school. You can't forum shop. Forum shopping means you can't shop for a court. Because if you did that, guess what? Everybody would want to go to Compton because Compton has a 90% acquittal rate. So everybody just picked that court.
Compton does not trust the justice system as much as other cities do.
So in Manhattan, he was in enemy territory. He was in the heart of Democraticville. So all those people were Democrats. 90% of them probably. I thought that a couple of them would actually rise to the occasion and say, you know what? I'm a Democrat, but there weren't charges proven beyond a reasonable doubt. I thought in New York that there was enough to show that he may have lied to protect his family from knowing that he was having an affair.
Right. Right. You're making the distinction of what the jury was asked to do in that case, in that New York case of get into his mind, jury, and tell us, did he lie exclusively to affect the United States election? Because that's bad. That's election interference. That's a crime. Or did he lie to not let his family, his wife and kids, find out about this horrifying, this affair he had?
Yeah.
Obviously a little bit of both, right? I mean, you would think. But here the jury says none of that.
Right. It's absolutely.
It's 100% for election interference.
That's because it's in Manhattan.
Okay. But then
that's why Trump kept saying it's rigged. He said it's rigged because he wasn't going to get a fair trial.
And this little loophole of getting into his head and inferring the motivation of affecting the election with this lie is how they elevated these 33 things, these falsifications of records, from misdemeanors to felonies, right?
The way they tried to. He didn't get convicted of a felony.
He
got convicted only of the misdemeanor. They tried.
Hold on. Then why is he a convicted felon? We all thought he had 33 felonies. No, he did. He did.
I'm sorry. Yes, I'm sorry. He had one felony.
I'm not shocked.
I'm sorry, he had one felony. I'm sorry.
I'm not shocked that you don't remember it that way because
there was a lot of it was like 34 misdemeanors. You're right. There was one felony.
Because it's just too much. It's too much.
10 minutes ago he was a convicted felon, and I forgot.
He's a convicted felon.
A majority of them were just misdemeanor cases.
I thought they elevated all 33 to felonies.
I don't think they were all 33 felonies. I could be wrong on that.
Don't be shocked if they did, bro, because they went overboard. And isn't that what part of what people are reacting to? They're like, okay, you tell me he's a convicted felon, but I ask, convicted for what? Convicted how? Right?
Well, they proved. Well, they
somebody in his organization wrote legal expenses on a ledger for money that was paid to a lawyer, Michael Cohen. I get that was really a hush money payment, but I want to say they tried to elevate all the misdemeanors to felonies. You correct me. Tell me if we got that wrong. Maybe it was just one felony.
He was convicted of 34 counts of falsifying business records in the first degree, but it doesn't say if it was a felony. Hold on a second. 34. It says 34 count felony trial. So they found that he was guilty of Yeah, election fraud, basically concealing election fraud. Because in order to find a felony, they have to find that he was convicted of the felony.
Yep, and then they multiplied that across 34 acts.
34 acts. Yeah, because
I wrote this here, I mailed this there, I licked this here, I put the stamp. None of which he did, I bet.
No, he wouldn't, and he couldn't. He's one of those guys.
He's an executive.
He's signing documents.
He's sitting in the C-suite.
But the thing is, okay, so watch this. So this is where it becomes political, and you talk about lawfare.
But you see how shocked you were right now as a criminal defense attorney that these got elevated to felonies to that amount? That's what the American people felt when you tell them he's a convicted felon. They're kind of like, come on, dude. Come on.
Yeah.
Convicted felon? Like, really? Kind of.
I forgot what I was going to say something. I forgot. I was getting into something. I forgot something. I was going to say something.
You tell me when the last time is you saw this kind of elevation of from misdemeanor to felony, this amount, this scale, this partisan seeming.
What were you saying before? I was like,
of the 33
counts.
Felony charges.
Yeah, I was saying something before, and I got sidetracked.
It'll come back. It'll come back. It'll resurface.
We were talking
to you. You look at this. You find it hard to believe, right? In your profession, you look at these charges and you're like, "Come on, guys, are we overstepping here?" Like, would you talk to the other side and go?
Yeah, but look, here's the bottom line. This never happens. Google research it. How many times have people been convicted of? Lying in their ledger and going after it.
For internal records. It's internal.
If it's true, even if it's true, again, there's something called the letter of the law and the spirit of the law. Do we want to prosecute a former president? Again, the one side of the argument is, well, he's not above the law. We should prosecute him. But on the other side of the law is, then it becomes open season for every politician. This has been going on for many, many years.
Yeah, we don't want political prosecution, no.
They did it to John Edwards. They did it to Ted Stevens, senator from Alaska. They tortured this man. They took him to trial because he supposedly got a chair for a gift, a freaking chair. They spent a year, 2 years prosecuting this man. They convicted him. And then when they convicted him, they found out that the prosecutors hid evidence. That was malicious prosecution. It was so bad, the prosecution killed themselves. Somebody committed suicide because they realized they over-prosecuted Ted Stevens. Poor Ted Stevens, who's a World War II veteran, Republican senator from Alaska. Because why? Because he took a chair during construction that may or may not have been a gift. That's what we're doing. We're prosecuting senators for stuff like that.
That's where we're losing
a committee to stop this lawfare nonsense.
Yeah, we lose our minds when we do that. We spin ourselves crazy just going after political rivals. Let's not do that. That's not what the law is for.
And the prosecutor knew they effed up so much, they killed themselves. There was a suicide. Wow. I think it was 2 suicides, if I'm not mistaken. And you know what? They deserve to kill themselves because if you ruin a man's life knowing that that he's not guilty, then to hell with you.
Right.
Hell with you.
Yeah.
And I'm very against lawfare and political prosecutions. This has been going on everywhere.
What a waste of resources.
Waste of money. And, I also, Trump has got other issues. He's got civil lawsuits going on right now. He's got that case against Trump Organization in New York. He's got other civil lawsuits going on also. All of those are on ice. Every single case is on ice. Eugene Carroll, the case where she sued for defamation, on ice.
Good.
Everything is on. Now,
good.
I don't know about good. I will tell you that it's proper because a sitting president shouldn't worry. Just like I disagree with the Monica Lewinsky situation with Clinton, you can't tie up the chief executive officer of a country of 300 million with a lawsuit. You got to wait. Because my national security interests are more important than you suing my president and getting money. That's just the way I feel.
100%. Agreed. So we talked about New York. That judge is going to throw his hands up and go, I'm done. We talked about Georgia. Hopefully the same thing.
Yeah.
Florida. Its documents were left out. What's going on with that case?
The Florida document case is going to get tossed. Jack Smith is already winding it down. Is
he a state prosecutor for Florida?
Jack Smith is a federal prosecutor. He was appointed by Merrick Garland.
Okay.
And the issue was that Merrick Garland can't appoint Jack Smith. Only the president can. And that's why the whole prosecution was void ab initio, according to President Trump's legal team, which is a brilliant argument. Let me repeat. you can't hire Jack Smith. And by hiring Jack Smith,
You being who?
Merrick Garland, the Attorney General. Only the president could do that.
Hold on. Only the president can appoint a special prosecutor?
Yes,
But then
according to the Constitution.
how does that work when special prosecutors are appointed to go after the president, like in Clinton's case?
Well, that was the Attorney General. That was especially assigned. You're talking about the former Kenneth Starr. Kenneth Starr went after him.
Yes.
Ken Starr was specially assigned and appointed
By
the president.
the
president.
next president? I don't get it.
Actually, let me take
Can't
it back.
be. It
I'm
can't
not
be.
sure if it was the president,
It can't be.
but
Because he went after the
But the
president.
Attorney General cannot do it.
Okay, so maybe
Whether or
Congress has to do it or something?
not- No, the president has.
But I mean, Clinton's not going to do that to go after himself. Neither is Trump, right?
You're supposed to.
Oh, I see. Maybe Clinton actually did say,
supposed
hey,
to.
put a special prosecutor.
The president.
Okay.
So in this case, Jack Smith's
what you're saying.
authority, according to Trump's lawyers, is void because he was hired by. So that issue is on appeal right now. But here's the bottom line: Jack Smith, he sees the writing on the wall. Trump already said, as soon as I'm in power, Jack is gone. How does he get rid of Jack? Very easy. He hires an attorney general. I sit down with you and I say, Tony, you're going to be my attorney general. We shake hands. First assignment. You know what to do.
Siberia.
You know what to do. You know what to do.
You know what to
You're
do.
going to be knocking on Jack Smith's door. You shake his hand. You say, thank you for your services. And you send him home and game over.
Right.
So his DC cases are gone. His document cases are gone.
That's Florida.
Florida's gone. And
Georgia's probably gone.
Georgia's state, it's going to be delayed. It's probably gone. The classified documents we already talked about is gone. We talked about that. And the election capital assault on the assault.
That's a
gone.
federal case.
That's also gone.
And that one is easier for him to get rid of.
Yeah, because
it's federal.
Two people could do this. Either the Department of Justice. So people want to know, how can he get rid of the case? Either the DOJ steps in without Trump saying anything and says, look, the guy's a sitting president right now. Millions of people voted for him, so you're going to have to drop the case. Or if they don't want to do it, Trump just hires his attorney general and he tells them, look, before I hire you, obviously I want you to make these cases go away. The attorney general says, of course, and makes his cases go away. So 2 federal cases are gone. The New York cases, we're going to find out about Merchan. Judge Merchan is going to make a ruling, I think, next week.
Interesting.
I predict is going to dismiss the case.
Okay.
And then the Georgia case, forget about it. Fani Willis is completely in a vortex of legal trouble. She hired another prosecutor who she was having some sort of sexual tryst with, and
There was
proper
some cash was exchanged, a lot of cash.
stuff, and she's in a whole world of hurt. I don't think that case is going to go forward. So, for all intents and purposes, all Trump's problems are gone.
Teflon Don remains Teflon.
That's right. Teflon Don is back.
He's back, and what a new dawn for this country. A brand new dawn. So let's all go out there, work hard, and take this country to the next level. It's kind of like the shackles are off for a brief period of time.
Yeah.
Let's do what Americans do. Work hard, be smart, and excel. Kick ass.
Well, what do you think is going to happen now with the J6? He already promised the whole world. He said, once I get elected, I'm letting everybody go. They're political prisoners.
How many people are involved?
At least 13, 14 prosecutions that I know about that were convicted, and probably more in the line. So, and then the other issue is,
I think most of those people seem to have been duped by the circumstances.
and the greatest part is,
Some of them went there with handcuffs and bulletproof vests and zip ties.
yeah, absolutely.
So maybe we need to distinguish, like, who was there to do what? Did you have a helmet and
Well,
smoke
he said that
grenades?
he said that he's going to take a look at a case by case basis. I mean, the zip tie guy.
Yeah, it's like
He went a little out of control.
But like a woman who showed up on Kill Tony at this comedy show I love and talked about, literally on a comedy show on YouTube, she showed up and started saying, like, I was on Jan 6. I was there at Jan 6. Next thing you know, she's got investigated, arrested, and thrown in jail.
Yeah.
Maybe she shouldn't be. She's just some woman who was there going past the turnstiles with her husband, like following a row of 200 people snaking through the Capitol, like kind of sightseeing, as Tucker Carlson would say. But weird. There's probably a broad range of criminal culpability amongst that big group of people.
Well, the beneficiaries are also the people that are charged with Trump. So think about Trump's being charged with the document case with his his caddy. I mean, his personal assistant. He's getting a free walk. They're going to drop the case against him.
Interesting.
So he lucked out. He actually played his hand right by not talking to the police, by not snitching, by not ratting on his boss, by sticking it in, by hanging in there, believing in his boss.
Right.
His boss won the presidency and now is out of the case. He's probably thinking that was the best move I ever did.
Now he's attorney general.
Yeah.
The golf caddy.
Yeah. He might be attorney general.
Who do we think is going to be attorney general?
There's rumor that it's going to be Eileen Cannon, their lady from on the documents case, I believe. She's a judge. I think he'll make her an attorney general.
Interesting.
Yeah, he's gonna pick loyalists. Obviously, everybody's gonna do his bidding. But look, there's one good thing about that.
It's good for the nation in a way.
There's one good thing. There's not going to be gridlock legislation anymore.
Yeah.
But
that's what I mean by the shackles are off.
But then again, the counter argument could be, what kind of legislation is he going to pass? The Democrats are going to say it's not the type of legislation we want. And look what he did last time when he was in power. He passed abortion. I mean, he got abortion, taken away. He put in 3 justices. He has one more justice that he's going to put in this time because Alito's going to be gone.
That has to be historic.
Sotomayor or Thomas. Those 3, Thomas, Sotomayor, and Alito, are all old. One of them, I guarantee you, are going to be gone in 2 years. So
hold on. I'm imagining no president ever has picked 4.
No. Now that
except maybe George Washington picked all 9 of them, or what?
I'm not sure.
I'm kidding.
There were 9 back then.
That probably didn't happen that way.
So now that Trump is in power, what he's going to do is he's going to blitz, as they say in football. He's going to blitz through litigation. One thing he's going to do mass deportations. He already said that. That's going to start. The second thing,
a lot of people are very worried about that. I hear whispers of like mass deportations. What exactly does that mean, really? Are we talking about rounding up illegals that are in these sanctuary cities?
Giving Homeland Security the authority to go and make arrests. That wasn't happening in certain administrations. They weren't given the green light.
Make arrests and deport people?
Yeah. In fact, as a criminal defense attorney, I will now be advising my clients to be on the lookout for being deported.
Right. So you still have to, maybe if you interacted with Homeland Security, you'd have a risk of arrest and deportation. But if you don't interact with Homeland Security...
They weren't actively looking for you until now. Now Trump is going to call and say, I want you to be proactive about it. That's why if you're a illegal immigrant, you need to be hanging out in sanctuary cities. Otherwise, they're going to be coming after you aggressively.
So what cities are those?
San Francisco, Los Angeles.
So you don't...
Let's talk about friendly cities.
But they
New York.
They call them sanctuary cities.
Well, they call them sanctuary because they're not. You could hide there, and the Homeland Security is going to have a tough time getting you.
How so?
Well, because they have to find out where you are, and nobody's going to be actively pushing to expose you.
They won't get that much help from local administrators.
Yeah, you're not going to get.
Whereas in Texas, you might
forget about it. Yeah, you'll be exposed probably by your neighbor. Probably call you in. But so that and also
that's a little scary.
So he's going to be doing that right away, putting in Supreme Court justices right away, and then the good thing is this. Here's what the podcasters can know. So with the Lawfare. During one of his rallies, they were yelling "lock her up" to Hillary Clinton. He turned around and said, "No, we're not going to do that anymore. I don't want prosecutions anymore."
Good. He's tired of it.
He's tired of it, which I was surprised.
But I like hearing that.
I was surprised.
That's the right move.
I'm still surprised. I'll see it when I believe it. Trump is really about retribution and revenge.
Not if it gets in the way of business progress.
That's what I'm thinking right now. I'm thinking
it's inefficient.
Maybe I'm thinking he's getting the ear of somebody saying, "Look, this is the last 4 years. You could undo what happened with J6.
And you got 2 years with legislative authority.
And you could undo what people remember you for the last things that you did. So try to make this the best 4 years and walk into the sunset." I hope he does that. He has the chance to do that now.
He will. He will.
I mean, there's no reason for him not to do it. He doesn't have to worry about re-election again.
He has a chance to be one of the most historic people that have ever lived.
Now he can because he's got the red Senate. He's got the red House. It's the first time.
And we haven't called the House yet, right?
It's going to go red.
It seems like it's leaning towards red.
And you know when the last time it was red?
Tell me.
Never, I think. It was 18-something, they said. 1870. It was like 100 years ago.
Right. I don't know when.
Yeah.
We should fact check it.
They said it was 1880 or something. It was a red.
Right.
So that basically everything is going to get passed really quickly.
It's like, let's go. Let's get stuff done. Let's move the country forward.
Legislation is going to move forward, but, again,
tax cuts.
legislation that you like.
Right.
That's a different story, but things are going to get done.
Things are going to get done.
Yeah.
So we're going to see an activated nation for the next 2 years minimum.
Yeah.
Everybody go get activated.
And only one good thing about the Trump presidency that I remember, do you remember when Trump was president, there was never a dull day?
How about there was no war around the world? That was kind of cool too.
Yeah, that was kind of cool. I'm hoping that Trump will actually deliver on that.
I think he will.
That's the one thing that, again, I don't think Trump and Harris were the best candidates that we have in all of America, okay?
The best we have don't want the job.
The best, yes, right. But Trump does have a little something that I think he could use, and that he has a little bit of clout with Putin and with Kim of North Korea. He has leaders like Netanyahu that respect him. I'm hoping that he can make some calls and say, listen, I'm not going to give you money, Netanyahu, if you keep fighting a war. I'm not going to give you money if you keep fighting a war in Ukraine to Zelensky. So maybe something good could happen out of this. You never know. Maybe we could have the next 4 years. Remember, before COVID, the economy was great. I mean, again, I'm not defending Trump, but Trump got a bad hand. COVID came, knocked out the economy, but he was doing fantastic because he was cutting tax. Again, I'm not into politics.
He was doing fantastic for the nation.
He was doing fantastic. I don't know if he was doing it, but
financially, we were firing on all cylinders.
Again, I don't know if it was because of Trump. I'm just letting you know we were in a good place. COVID happened. Now we're back in a good place.
We're back.
We're back in a great place. There's growing interest rates. There's tons of jobs out there. If he doesn't F up the economy, he can make this economy one of the best economies since like the roaring 20s.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
It's time to work hard, party harder.
And that's what he wants to do. He doesn't want war anymore. He's like, I just want this country to do well.
Yeah.
I hope he does that. I hope the people, the people at Prosecutor later on turn around and this will be a learning lesson and say, you know what? Maybe we went a little too far. Maybe this guy is a little unorthodox and maybe he says things that we don't like and maybe he's not a politician by the traditional sense of the word. But look, if he does something good for the country, whatever it is, I think we should recognize it.
Yeah, and let's give him the chance now. Now with this overwhelming victory, there's a mandate from the people where you're not going to see people like Adam Schiff get out there and say, Russiagate, Russiagate, Russiagate.
Well, he can't anymore. He's got the Senate's on Trump's side. The House is on Trump's side. He could say it all he wants.
We did give him a Senate seat from California.
But you know what? Still,
don't ask me how that happened.
But it's still red. So Schiff's power is very limited.
Yeah, no, for sure.
I hate to say this.
And it should be.
I hate to say this, but the Constitution doesn't call for this, but Trump is pretty much a king for the next 4 years.
Okay. Well, listen, let's take advantage of this moment in this country. Let's just put the victimhood aside, the grievances aside. Let's come together and take this to the next level. I mean, it's like the chains are off. We're free to run, free to explore, free to work, free to create, right? Make money, make friends, make it all happen.
As long as Trump doesn't do crazy shit like he did the first time. As long as he doesn't say crazy shit.
It's saying crazy shit.
Saying crazy
It's not even doing crazy shit.
Don't say crazy shit. In fact, Joe Rogan, when he was on the Rogan show, he was like, I don't understand why there's Trump derangement syndrome going on. And what did Joe say? I do. Because you've been saying some crazy shit.
Right. He called him out on that.
Called him out.
Super accurate. But he's not going to stop saying crazy shit. So maybe we all have to realize that's just crazy shit.
Maybe we just got to discount and go, that's just the way.
That's just crazy shit.
There's always a crazy uncle in everybody's dinner table. He's our crazy uncle, our crazy grandpa.
Right.
That's just the way it is.
Well, crazy grandpa, you got the power. Let's see what you do with that.
Yeah.
Hopefully for the betterment of this country and the world. Most importantly, the world. Stop all these wars.
That's all.
That's the most important part.
I want to stop all wars,
all of them,
and then I want this country to do well. We'll run the economy where everybody's just happy again. Inflation is down, where people could afford to rent their homes, afford to buy a car, afford to buy a home, afford to buy food. I can't believe we're talking about this.
Yeah,
people can't afford to buy eggs because they're so expensive. So let's get back to a world where people could afford to buy eggs.
You've been talking to my wife?
Is that, she thinks eggs are expensive?
She does.
Yeah.